Hey guys, it's your girl Nthabi back with the APC series. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to like, leave comments and subscribe to the channel. Show your girl some love. So in today's video, I'm going to cover tips that really helped me, and it's something that I wish someone had told me before I wrote assessments, especially like the second assessment, third assessment, and the supplementary, because I did mention that I was on the APC board course. So I'll be taking you through tips that helped me for pre-release period, exam day, as well as the gap between when you're done, with the case studies and then leading up to the APC exam, right? Like what to do in that period. So if you have any questions after the video, just leave comments in the comment section, and I'll be sure to respond to you. If you want me to cover content that you are not familiar with or trying to understand, leave comments in the comment section and your girl will answer you. So we're first going to cover the pre-release period. And one of the things that really helped me was having a time schedule, right? You know how to structure, your 5-day period. So I had a template where I know at 8 o'clock we are receiving the password to the pre-release period, the pre-release information, and now we have access to it. We are highlighting, we are reading. So what helped me was having a timetable that basically said from 8 until 10, I'm going to read the pre-release information for 2 hours, familiarize myself with it, highlight it, and just gain a basic understanding of it. And then maybe take like a 10-minute break and then have another 1 hour where I'm absorbing the information. I am writing down the research questions on the pre-release information PDF. And now I'm busy deciding now, okay, what is the main trigger? What is, just context that I'm not supposed to research? How am I going to structure, the order of my research? And then when I'm done with that, then I'll focus maybe 3.5 hours on industry research. And in the research video, I covered the times, which is 3.5 hours. I covered what to focus on, what questions to ask for, understanding the entity, understanding the industry, and doing the financial analysis. So I covered that in that video. Then when you're done, you're going to move to day 2, 3, and 4, right? Because day 2, 3, and 4 is very important because that is where you do extensive research. And then on your last day, it's basically you being left with like maybe 1 or 2 triggers, and 2 triggers the most. And then you're familiarizing yourself with the file. And I feel like having a structure is so important. Having a timetable is very important because the mistake that I made was I found myself doing research for 6 hours or even the whole day on one thing, and then I neglected everything else. Now I'm not spending sufficient time or quality. I'm not doing quality research because the time is so limited, and that was my downfall because I would spend one day on a big trigger and neglect the others. And then when the day came, I was overwhelmed with the things I consider small triggers that evolved into bigger things on the day. So it was my downfall, and I realized that keeping a timetable and a time structure was very important. My timetable was so detailed to a point where I knew what time I'm eating, I knew what time I'm meeting with my group, I knew what time I'm sleeping, I knew what time I'm reading the pre-release information, what time I'm highlighting the information, what time I'm doing trigger 1, trigger 2, all of that. And it kept me grounded. It kept me disciplined. And one thing that will help you is being disciplined with yourself and saying, if I allocate 3 hours, I'm going to stick to these 3 hours because I need to focus my attention on the entire pre-release information in order to gain an advantage, to prepare myself better for the exam. The second thing that helped me was that for APC, I had 3 files. So one file was my main exam file. So I knew that when I'm going to write, I'm taking this file with. It was a red file. I showed you in the video of preparing the APC file. And then I had a second file, which was black. That file had all the previous case study attempts that I did. So in the APT board course, we have many case studies that they take us through. and we also go through the specimen responses. We also go through our attempts, and we do reflection. So I would put everything that we did, all the assessments that we did, in that file, so that when I do self-reflection, I see how much I have grown, or where I'm lacking, or where I can improve. That would be my reflection file, basically. And then the third file will be the specimen responses that I found were relevant and really good. So obviously in the board course, you'll get assessments, and then you'll get the specimen response, like on the SciCar website, when you look at past papers. And then you have your HC answers, your C answers, then your BC, your LCs, right? So if I found a question is relevant, so like for example, we had a case study that dealt with the risk of material misstatements, and that example was really good. I found that example to be really helpful, because I had to remind myself, how to do an identification and assessment of ROM, the risk of material misstatements. And they did it in such a detailed way. And I knew that, okay, if I can remember the structure and see if they're asking us to identify or assess ROM, here is the structure. So I'll put that in the blue file. It was the blue file that had specimen responses. If we are having like general procedures on something in auditing, I would keep that in the file. If maybe in the past paper I was currently practicing, they asked us to review the general journals that the client or whoever had prepared, and in the specimen response, the C or the HC responses, they had a detailed answer and how SciCar would like you to answer those questions. I had that example in the file, the blue file, right? And I would go through it and not just put it in the file, just for the sake of putting it in the file. So I put things that were relevant. And when it came to the exam, if something was specifically triggered, I would take that example out and go through it, and then put it in my red file, which is the exam file, only if that topic was triggered, so that I can have a structure on how SciCar would like me to respond. But also, I would literally go through that document, highlight it, write notes on it, like keywords, so that I'm understanding what is going on, instead of just putting a blank page and say, this is what SciCar wants. No, we always have to make it relevant to the information of the day, as well as the things that were triggered in pre-release. So I had 3 files, and that really helped me, because I had a reserve bank, which was the blue file, that if I need to maybe remind myself of the five procedure steps in IFRS 15, then I will know this revenue has these 5 steps. This is how SciCar wants me to answer. Then I'll have that specimen response in my file, only if it is triggered. So I feel like that can really help you in preparing for the APC as well as the pre-release period. So the next thing I focused on was the actual printing of the pre-release information. So I would go to the office and print at least 3 copies. And in the video that I made of file preparation, there was a section that just had pre-release information. So I'd include, the first copy would be the full pre-release information, where I highlighted everything from page 1 until page 17. I wrote smaller notes, key things to remember, not the full thing, because when I read the pre-release information initially, I would write down the questions and my initial thoughts on the PDF document, right? And not the actual thing that I printed. Then the second copy and the third copy would be for the documents that were the actual triggers. So each trigger had each section in the file, and that was covered in the APC file video. So if maybe document 1 was 2 pages long, I would have that page as well as the back of document 1, and then after that I would have the research that I did. Then I'd highlight the relevant sections, because that is going to help me in that helped me in the exam, because now I had forgotten what document 1 and pre-release spoke about. I've forgotten what this trigger spoke about. So having the pre-release together with the research that you did reminds you of what was mentioned in the pre-release. Then if document 2 just had 1 page, I'll include that 1 page, highlight it, and then include the research that I did on that specific trigger. And the reason why I made 3 copies is because 1 obviously was for the full printout, and then the other 2 was in case document 1 and document 2, they're printed back to back, right? So obviously if I use the first page and it's document 1 and then at the back is document 2, I won't have a document 2. So then the document 2 trigger would come from the third copy batch, if you're following me. But it's just in case of emergencies or if I run out of the pre-release information, so that it can just make it easy for myself. And then the next thing that helped me was also printing out of the templates, because I mentioned in the video of APC file prep that having templates is very important, because in the exam you are very stressed about the information that they bombarded us with. You are trying to figure out, how to answer. Like, you forgot how to write a report, you forgot the structure of a memo, you forgot the structure of a letter, whether the date goes on the left or on the right, or gunini. So it really helps us in just not focusing on things that don't matter. That you have a structure in your file and you remember, and your brain is only focusing on applying professional judgment. Your brain is focusing on things on the day, not things you can avoid. The next thing that helped me when I was reading the pre-release information is the color of highlights I used. So how my brain works is I identify color and I take information in when there's color. If it's black and white, it'll go over my head. So each highlighter color meant something. So as I'm reading, I would highlight in yellow, orange, all those colors will have meaning. So if I read in the information, I would highlight yellow. Yellow means it's just general information, so your context. Example, name of your company, my role in this firm, and just general information about the company. And then the orange would be something that I need to remember and something that I need to bring forth into the exam and highlight in the exam. So it's key things that I just need to remember. Then your green would be the actual triggers, the actual research I need to do. So I know that if I see green, I need to do research on that thing. Then blue would be the audience. So who I am directing or addressing rather, who is addressing me. Or if maybe an organization is mentioned or a regulatory body is mentioned, I would highlight that in blue. So every time I saw blue, I knew that it is something, it's someone, or it's an organization. And then when I looked at purple, it would be the format of my response. If they want a memo, I would highlight the word memo in purple. I would highlight the report or the PowerPoint presentation that they want in purple. Then when I use pink, I knew that it's either a risk that I'm identifying, something is wrong, or it's an ethics question. So when I saw pink, I saw danger. That was because we don't have red in highlighters, so pink was the closest thing. So that helped me, because even in the exam, I went with those highlighters, and when I was reading, I would literally use a ruler and highlight the way I was highlighting in pre-release, so that by the time I come back to that question, I know who I am addressing because it's in blue. I know the format because it's in purple. I know what I need to bring forth into the answer because it's in orange. I know that there's an ethics element or there's a risk because I see pink. So it was very helpful, because even when I came back and I saw green, I knew that green meant I have to answer this. So highlighters really were a big thing for me. And then the next thing that really helped me was the last day, which is the 5th day of the pre-release information. The pre-release period. I always made sure that on the last day, I am done with my research. I only have 1 or 2 triggers left, but 1 maximum. If I have 2, that means I was playing on the other days. So I made sure that if I have research left, I only have 1 trigger left. So I would wake up, I'm a morning person. So I would wake up at 5:30. 5:30, I'm doing the trigger until, let's say, 10 o'clock. And then now I am finalizing all the other triggers from 10 until 2 o'clock. That's me finalizing all the research, things I need to Google and everything. Then at 2 o'clock, I knew, hope, cut off time now. It's tight time. You must be done. You need to be done with everything, because I feel like as much as research is important, it's also essentially important to go through your file. So from 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock latest, I would literally sit down with my file. Hey, that file would be my friend, my best friend. I knew that file from A to Z. All the sections, I had 20 sections in my file, and I made sure I familiarized myself from section 1 until section 20. Because the main problem that I had in first assessment right until the third assessment that resulted in me writing the supplementary was because I did not know my file. I didn't know what was in it. Yes, my research might have been good. Yes, my research might have been usable, in the exam. But like, I didn't know where everything was. I would literally flip, and like, I showed you my file, guys. My file was thick. And I would page through. I would even give up trying to search for this thing, even if I might have flagged incorrectly. But yeah, I didn't flag properly, but the flagging is also covered in the video, the APC file preparation. So I would eventually give up trying to find the page that I printed because I did not know my file. And that's very important, because now imagine in the exam, you have stressed already and you did research on this thing. If they're asking you about the 5 top risks of the company, you did the risks, you assess the impact, you have mitigating measures, but you can't find that page. How stressed are you going to be? You're going to even have anxiety because make that file your friend. That file must be your best bomba, because in the exam it's you and that file, and you need to know that file like no one's business, and it will help you. And the next thing that helped me was I had to learn which hours I was most productive. So I noticed that I'm a morning person. Even when I was studying in varsity, I was a morning person, Shem. These night riders, I salute you guys, because for me at night I get very tired. So in the morning, I would start maybe at 5:30 and then push until 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So 5:30 would be my start of time, or if I'm late, 6 o'clock, 6:30. But those are really my hours. And then if I had to push like really hard, I would push it to 4 o'clock and then like steal a nap here and there. But those used to be my times. And it's very important to know where you are, you're at your highest productivity level wise, because that is where you're going to push, and that's where you're going to do all the big triggers. In the APC exam, you can easily spot which one is the big trigger, which one is going to require like 6 hours to do or 5 hours to do. And you will see which ones are just, strategic questions that can have research, here and there. And it's not really you fully applying yourself. It's your small to medium tasks. Yeah, those ones. You'd spend maybe 3 hours. And then there's those ones that are the main thing. So for example, your accounting triggers, your auditing triggers would be your main triggers, where you need to do extensive research, looking at Big 4 articles and all of that. So when you're at your peak of productivity, make sure you're capitalizing it on the big tasks. That will help you thoroughly. But yeah, this concludes our part 1 of the pre-release information tips. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section, and I'll also be including the templates that I mentioned, the time schedules, the timetables, as well as the templates at the end of the video. You can take a screenshot so that you can, do your own template, but this is just what I did and what worked for me. But yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment at the end.